We all deal with stress and difficult times, and there's no such thing as a perfect week or a perfect day or even perfect foods. And oftentimes we find that our daily responsibilities can mount to so much pressure that we're often left saying screw it to the health priorities that we know we need in place if we ever want to get to and or maintain our health goals. The consistent sleep, the balanced meals, the daily movement. But instead of saying screw it and I'll just start again Monday, it's important to reframe how we think about and react under these circumstances because, well, they're inevitable. And that's what we're discussing on this episode of the Smart Nutrition Made Simple show.
Welcome to the Smart Nutrition Made Simple show, where each week you will hear the real-world experiences, life lessons, and guided principles that every highly driven man needs to master their health, productivity, and relationships by sharing conversations with the world's most successful people in fitness, nutrition, supplementation, and mindset. Meet your host, Benjamin Brown. He is a fitness and nutrition expert, consultant to Fortune 500 companies and World Championship sports teams, a husband and father of 3, and has been helping men transform their physiques, optimize their energy, and own their fatherly mission since 2005. Thank you for joining us today, and without further ado, let's jump right in.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Smart Nutrition Made Simple show. Today on the show, we are talking about how to stick with your nutrition and health and fitness plan when stress levels are high, right? When so many times when we encounter high levels of stress, we just want to say screw it and we just want to quit. And so today we're going to talk about what to do instead and how to perhaps reframe that mindset around when we want to say screw it. Because the reality is we all deal with stress and difficult times, right? There's no such thing as a perfect week or a perfect day or even perfect foods. And oftentimes we find that the daily responsibilities that we have can mount to so much pressure that we're often left saying, screw it, to the health priorities that we know we need in place if we ever want to get to and or maintain our health goals, right? We may have an off day or an off week or an off month coupled with mounting pressures from work and home and finances and kids. And it's hard to not feel overwhelmed recently. Right? So this is usually represented by phrases and things that we say to the degree of, I'll just start again Monday, or I can't think about that right now. It's just not that important. Or I'm feeling so overwhelmed, I don't even know where to start. Or I'll be ready when, and insert whatever excuse you want. I'll be ready when this work deadline is done, when the kids go back to school, when I have more time, and as we all know, it never feels like the right time. And the problem is when we deprioritize our health goals, or frankly, when we never prioritize them in the first place, then things can get really more difficult in the long run. Because what happens? What happens when stress is high? Right? What suffers? Our nutrition suffers and our sleep suffers. And why does it suffer? Well, our sleep schedule gets thrown off and we start to get exhausted, right? Because we go to bed later or we wake up earlier or we have less quality sleep. And then we make worse food choices because we don't have the mental bandwidth or the willpower because we aren't sleeping and have since abandoned any semblance of planning or preparation. And then what? And then our energy levels suffer, our mood, and ultimately our capacity to actually take on more is diminished, coupled with the guilt and the angst of not following through with our goals. And we're ultimately left feeling even more stressed, right? And even more defeated and even more likely once again failed, which is not a good feeling to have. So how do we keep that level of effort necessary when there's so many other things pulling for our attention? And when it starts to feel like the effort just isn't worth it? And why is it that when things feel easier, all of a sudden health is a priority, but when things get tough, all of a sudden it's not? Sure, it feels and is a significant time investment. And with so much else going on, can feel very overwhelming. But who says that abandoning our commitments is going to make things any easier? That's the thing. Instead, can you see how continuing to reinforce the habits that you've been working hard to embed into your daily life are the very habits and the skills and the tools and the routines that you actually need to help better manage everything else that feels so hard? The sleep routine, the daily movement, the meals that you know help you stay energized and balance your blood sugar, all contributing to better mental clarity and more resilience and more resolve, right? To thereby, because of those things, better control all of the other moving pieces in our crazy, stressful life. That's where we can glean control. So the question is, would you rather feel inconvenienced by the daily tasks you need to take care of your health because you know you'll better manage everything else? Or, I'm going to say that again, would you rather feel inconvenienced by the daily tasks, the nutrition, the movement, the sleep? They feel like an inconvenience, and sometimes they are, and that's okay. But would you rather feel inconvenienced by these daily tasks that you need to take care of your health because you know you'll better manage everything else? Or would you rather feel inconvenienced with the consequences of not taking care of yourself, not doing these things, and all of the additional repercussions that could create? The doctor's appointments, the getting sick more frequently, the feeling exhausted all of the time, the inability to focus, the constant overwhelm, the lack of confidence, the frustration of never losing that weight, and on and on and on. And it could be perhaps that sometimes the stressors actually give us leverage. Sometimes they give us leverage to absolve ourselves of the responsibility of doing the hard stuff and trading it instead for the convenience of instant gratification. In other words, is it, and this is a hard question to ask yourselves and to identify with, but is it sometimes easier to just use the stress as an excuse so we don't have to try so dang hard? Because exercise feels hard. Tracking my foods feels hard. Waking up early feels hard. Planning my meals and cooking for myself and cooking for my family feels so hard sometimes. And so it's easier for me in the moment to choose easy, to choose quick and convenient, and delay the frustrations that are inherent in lifestyle change. And that's okay. That doesn't make you a bad person. But as I said, would you rather deal with the frustration now or later? Because you're going to have to face it sometime if you truly want to change. So as I paint this picture, hopefully you can see that by digging into short-term pain, we actually are better able to set ourselves up for long-term pleasure. But I get it. When we've all been down this road so many times before and seemingly failed, right? So many times before, it's hard to know how to make change moving forward. So let's dig into this a little bit, right? The reality is you're not a failure. You're not a loser. You're every bit as capable of being as successful as anyone else, even with extremely high perceived stress. This is just a problem you've never had to solve before. And so we need to work through the possible solutions to determine which one is right for us as an individual given the circumstances. And so I'm going to give you an example here. I want you to hang tight with me for a sec. So I'm going to give you an example, right? So my client, Greg, he's in a position right now where he's feeling very overwhelmed. And he has his wife who's out of town for her father's funeral, unfortunately, or he's in hospice. And so he has 2 young kids at home. He has a very busy work schedule. He's got kids in online schooling. And he's in a position where he's just feeling very stressful, very overwhelmed, to the degree that he feels like he can't track his calories. He doesn't know what to do for meal prep. He wants to eat out more frequently. He's making excuses for why he can't exercise. And so we had to have a candid conversation about the things that he can control and what felt reasonable for him in this moment. Is because oftentimes we feel like it needs to be all or nothing, right? Either we're all in or we're all out. And if we can't be perfect, then why bother trying at all? And simply doesn't have to be that way. Instead, we found a way that worked for Greg. We audited his schedule. We figured out a way where he could continually get his physical activity in throughout the day in a way that wouldn't impose with his work commitments and his parent responsibilities. We figured out a way where he could prep his meals in a seemingly simplistic way that wouldn't take hours of meal preparation or excessive amounts of cooking or ridiculous amounts of expenses to do that, all between Trader Joe's and Costco and Walmart and really relatively simple meal preparation strategies in ways that Greg perhaps hadn't thought of or thought were perhaps just too basic for him to be successful with. And instead, Greg has been terribly successful throughout the week, to the degree that he now has so much more control over his daily schedule, which has empowered him to make better decisions in every other area of his life. Right? So we found what was reasonable for him and made a plan around that. And so what's important to internalize here is that health isn't binary. It's not all or nothing, and never should feel so overwhelming that it becomes impossible to attain. Instead, it should be about continual progress, even and especially in the face of challenge. And I'm going to give you another example here because I'm personally going through a very similar situation in terms of when stress feels overwhelming. We are in the middle of a home renovation. We have no kitchen. We have no living room. We have no family room. We have 1 bathroom for 5 of us. I have no home gym. It's now a storage locker. And it would be very easy for me to just relegate myself to eating out every single meal, and the expenses that incurred, and the excessive amounts of calories and the poor food choices that would incur, and thereby not exercise because I don't have access to my home gym. But instead, I've chosen to structure my day, my office, my meetings, everything around the things that I prioritize. I ordered meal delivery. And even though it's an expense, it's not nearly the expense that eating out every single meal would be. I chose to rent an office in a facility that has a gym 100 feet away from me that I can exercise in any time of the day. Because I have more control over my nutrition, because I have more control over my training, because I'm actually out of the house, I have more focus time and I'm actually getting more done. And thereby, I'm actually feeling possibly less stressed than I would had I relegated myself to being stuck in the house at all hours of the day. So it's really how we choose to frame our possible pain. And really, it's about the questions that we need to ask ourselves, right? The question that we have to ask ourselves is, what feels reasonable given the situation? What feels reasonable and what can we realistically commit to? How can we make better choices and continue to set ourselves up for success? Maybe we can't train 5 days a week, but can we train 2? Maybe we can't get in 10,000 steps per day, but can we get in 5? Maybe you can't cook every meal at home, but can you grab a rotisserie chicken and fruit at the grocery store instead of In-N-Out burger? Is that difficult of a decision to make? And even if you feel like you screwed up on a day or a weekend or a week at a time or a month at a time, does that negate the weeks and months that you've spent prior to the plan that you were on point? And why would you wait until Monday when you can just commit to making your next meal better and get back on track? It's a shift in thinking that doesn't involve black or white or all or nothing. Right? The choice to get back on plan is always there for us, and it can happen as soon as our next meal, even when we feel like we quote unquote screwed up. You have the freedom to do that. And the reality is that if you are structuring your nutrition and training in a way that fits within your busy schedule, and it gives you the flexibility and the freedom and the confidence to know that you don't have to be perfect, and it gives you the understanding that there's no such thing as perfect in this world, you're going to be much more successful. And these are the tools that we give you in our Smart Nutrition Made Simple coaching program. For all of my clients listening, you get it. Because it's not all or nothing. Rather, it's the gray area where most of us live and most of us thrive. So the next time you encounter a problem or a stressor or overwhelm that makes you feel like you just want to quit, I'd ask you to take a step back and identify the real problem. And ask yourself if quitting on your goals is actually a logical solution, or is it simply perpetuating the pain? And instead, I bet there are other areas of your life where you can save time and you can save money and you can save frustration to ensure that you can continue to work towards your health and fitness goals despite the discomfort that's bound to come with it, right? Because you know that the short-term discomfort will yield long-term pleasure and progress. So I hope that's been helpful for you guys. Just a little different way of thinking about how we perceive stress and the decisions that we make around stress. Assuming this has been helpful for you, do me a favor and leave me a 5-star review. Share this with someone that you think could benefit, and leave a positive review in the comment section. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for taking the time to listen in. And if you want to talk about working together, you can absolutely reach out to me. Just comment below, or you can schedule your free nutrition strategy call at bslnutrition.com/level up. Appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Did you love this episode of the Smart Nutrition Made Simple show? Then head on over to iTunes, subscribe, and leave a positive rating and review. And more importantly, share this with other men that you know are dedicated to leveling up in every area of their life by learning how to live healthier, more energetic, and productive lives so that they can optimize their health for their family and future. Thank you for listening. And if you want to find out more about how you can work directly with Ben, then just head on over to www.bslnutrition.com/level up.